Hey Nancy Drew fans, we're back for book 55, Mystery of Crocodile Island. First published in 1978, this book is the second to the last in the original series of 56. Amazingly, now in her late 80s, Harriet Stratemeyer Adams is still running the syndicate and ghostwriting as Carolyn Keene. With the 50th anniversary of Nancy Drew approaching in 1980, it's a big time for Harriet Stratemeyer Adams and our favorite girl detective, both of whom are being heavily featured in the press. Here's a summary from my favorite nonfiction book on Nancy. A model of women's liberation long before the time for that particular idea had come, blue-eyed, Titian-haired Nancy is independent, resourceful, a leader not only of men but of women, girls, and boys too, said Good Housekeeping. Many of the pieces invoked the story of an 11-year-old girl who had been kidnapped and molested several years earlier and escaped through the large taillight opening of her attacker's trunk after removing the light itself. The officer on the case had told reporters, "She's read something like 45 Nancy Drew books. That seems to have prepared her mind to deal with the situation and to escape." Unfortunately, this book doesn't really live up to the hype, despite an interesting enough premise and a few really fun scenes. We start with Nancy, Bess, and George waiting on the arrival of Carson Drew, who needs their help on a new mystery. He's asked George to pick up a rubber crocodile at the River Heights trick shop, causing an early making fun of Bess moment. He asks the girls to investigate a crocodile farm in Key Biscayne, Florida, whose business owners may be into poaching or some other bad deed. He has this somewhat insulting advice. Mr. Drew told the girls they should pretend to just be tourists. "I'd even suggest that while you're there you act like silly young girls, so that the crocodile ecology people won't catch on. The last thing you want them to know is that you all have high detective IQs. Bess laughed. "That'll be easy enough for me. I can act silly anytime, but Nancy will really have to play the part." Upon arriving in Florida, Nancy and her friends are in pretty frequent danger. Some serious, like when they're kidnapped from the airport and held in an empty house, and some totally ridiculous, like these falling snakes. And this mystery follows a now typical pattern, with Nancy doggedly tracking clues, making friends with the local police force, and taking huge chances, this time when she and Ned sneak into a submarine that turns out to be filled with explosives. This mystery is wrapped up really quickly, and surprisingly it gives just a cursory description of something that sounds like it would have been one of the most high-action and fun sequences in the entire series. Instead, we get way too much time on two subplots. These two subplots are obviously filler, but one of them does make up for my favorite scene in the book and a great making fun of Bess moment. Nancy and the girls take a day trip to Cape, Florida, where Nancy saves a little girl from drowning and is rewarded with a treasure map that quickly leads them to unearth a Spanish doubloon. During this scene, Bess accidentally picks up a bald old man who offers to take her for ice cream. George chuckled. "How come you're turning down food?" Bess blushed. "As I said, I'm on a diet." George and Nancy laughed. "Best joke I've heard in years," George exclaimed. If he had been young and handsome, Bess would have eaten 3 banana splits. Next up, the 13th Pearl.